Welcome, listeners, to the Grande Bouffe, the big feast, with myself, Cole Smithey, and this week's guest co-host, returning co-host, Mr. Adam SCHARTOFF. As always, we are here to copiously consume international politics and culture through the prism of a single film and a different craft beer each week. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you. It's so nice to be back for my three-peat.
Oh yeah, it's your three-peat.
Yeah.
You were the first guest co-host.
Wow. That's right. I remember that.
And there's something about this time of year when it's like, okay, it's time to get Adam on the show.
Oh, I like that. I like it. Entering into the holidays. That's nice. Let's make this an annual thing.
Yeah, and it goes along too with the beer because whenever I see Sierra Nevada Celebration, which is what we're drinking today, I know that we're in that season. This beer may have had something to do with me messaging you to come on the show. So we know that we're in the holiday season spirit.
Sure.
We're talking about the Fox Searchlight Party.
Right. The hands down we've agreed is the best party. Sorry if you're listening and you're host another party. There are a number of good ones, but this one is one that is just, really special. Right?
It is very special. I once canceled or rescheduled a trip that I was taking to Portland, Maine, just to go to the party.
Well, Portland, Maine, yeah. Portland, Oregon, I may have still gone to, but
oh, don't dish on Portland.
Oh, I love Maine.
Portland, Maine is pretty awesome.
It's a nice town. It's a nice town.
It's very walkable. I love being there in February.
But you did cancel it.
Bone. Well, no, I rescheduled it.
Okay.
I rescheduled it. Bone chilling cold, and the food is just great.
Oh, like seafood, right?
Eventide. There's a restaurant called Eventide. They're the best lobster.
Thai?
Oh, Tide, Eventide.
Oh, but it's seafood. So.
Yeah, they have a very unorthodox lobster roll.
Oh,
that is just to die for.
Uh-huh.
So anyway,
great Gus Van Sant film. So I'm OCD.
Yes, and Nicole Kidman, and that was, I think, Joaquin Phoenix's breakout role
for sure.
Anyway, Sierra Nevada Celebration, fresh hop IPA. It's delicious. It's delightful.
It's lovely.
It is lovely.
It is good, and you know me, I'm not big on that.
I know you're not big on this. 6.8 ABV. They brew it in the winter. They first brewed it in the winter of 1981, the year that I graduated from high school.
That's right, as I did. We're the same age.
Cheers.
This is a nice toasty taste to it. It's let me think, a little fruit. Very nice. I'm actually, I don't know why, but I'm not usually a fan of the hoppy beer, but this is good.
I love that you like it a lot.
It's also been so long since I've had an IPA that, it's like I can appreciate it.
Yeah, and tastes change.
Yeah.
Your taste buds change.
Yeah. Let me just do this because it's making all sorts of my phone. I'm going to turn it over so I don't see it. It's good to be back, and I appreciate your inviting me on.
I want to hear all about what's going on with FilmWax these days, and just your state of consciousness.
I'm entering into an interesting phase. We already discussed one of my reasons, which had to do with, how I approach booking my show. Let's put it that way. No reason to go out of the way to.
Yeah, you don't have to put a fine point on it.
Things.
Yeah, things develop.
Things change. One reason is that it's very difficult when I get like every filmmaker, pitch to me, or I do have an affinity for filmmakers, as you know, directors and producers. So it's not a bad thing; it's a wonderful thing. But I do like to mix it up more, and I know that, getting people on my show, which is an interview format show essentially, right? That have names, recognizable names, is very helpful, as you know. So I try to book more actors because they're mostly known, even if they're not famous. They usually have a following, even at a lower level of fame.
I think I know where you're going with this.
No. I'm just saying. I've weirdly, like, the planets have aligned or what have you, because all of a sudden the next bunch of shows, many of the next ones, are going to be with actors. Just different circumstances I've just hit some sort of, tipping point where I just have on, and I keep meeting more, and I keep inviting them on. So
Great.
I'll leak a few because
Please
have
do.
on. I haven't even said to my audience.
Leak as much as you will.
So here's what's happened. Jeffrey Wright today. Jeffrey Wright, who has been on my list since I started my podcast. I have a bucket list of...
I know you do. I know Jim Jarmusch is on that list.
You're right. Yes, he is. So I've had Edie Falco. I haven't even told anybody that.
Nice.
It's a secret. Edie Falco is going to be on.
Great.
I just did that. Martin Donovan. Peter Riegert.
Oh, wow.
Peter Riegert.
Nice.
I mean, for me, I just had on Richard Grant, the British actor.
Yeah, he's terrific.
Who was in, of course, very famously in...
With Nail and I.
That's right. And How to Get Ahead in Advertising.
So, two incredible... were they both directed by the same guy?
No, I don't believe...
Peter Yates did?
No, I think they were both produced by Dark Horse Films, or whatever George Harrison's company was. Which, by the way, I kicked myself because... I didn't bring that up in my conversation with Richard. He's in that new...
He's such a loquacious, articulate individual.
But he's so down to earth in person.
Yeah.
He's not the persona, the bad boy, the crazy.
I get that.
He's he is in the new Melissa McCarthy film, which is not a broad comedy. It's actually a darker story about a forger, like a woman who is desperate. She's an author who's down on her luck, and desperately starts forging literary letters and selling them. And she gets him, her friend, played by Richard E. Grant, involved. And it's a
what does
true
the
story.
E stand for?
It stands for, there's already a Richard Grant in the Union, and I had to put an E. I don't know what it stands for, but that's why he uses it.
Gotcha.
But here's this thing where I have this actor, Richard Grant, who I'm just like, can't believe I'm sitting across from Richard Grant. Because
he's a genius.
For me,
he's a
and like
genius.
we're two savants, right?
Yeah.
This is like who we want to meet. We
Absolutely.
don't care about meeting Melissa
question.
McCarthy. I mean, I would have in a heartbeat.
Yeah, of course.
But if I chose between the two, I'm going actually with Richard E. Grant.
Absolutely.
That's probably stupid.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think so.
So then I went
He's had such an interesting career and a very long career.
A long one. And then I also had the opportunity to meet Peter Riegert because I was at a Q&A, not in it, but in the audience. And afterwards, I went up to him and I said, I do this podcast, and everybody here, by the way, in the room, which was true, has been on it. Like, it was one of those cases where the number of the other people in the Q&A and involved in the screening were on my show, so it was very easy. And then we got together like a few weeks ago, and local hero, as you mentioned, with Nail and I, and
local hero,
Crossing Delancey,
which was on
Animal House.
Filmstruck. Really, I didn't know he was in Animal House.
Peter Riegert.
Oh, yeah. Peter Riegert. Oh, of course.
I went back to Peter Riegert. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah. And so that was an amazing thing. And and then the other day I was just out shopping, and I ran into out of nowhere Tony LoBianco.
Oh, there's a name for you
from
French
Connection,
the Honeymoon Killers.
The Honeymoon Killers, 7-Ups.
7-Ups, yeah.
And I'm like,
wow.
I recognized him.
Yeah.
And he's agreed to do the show. So we'll see what happens. I've emailed him. We'll see what happens.
I love the celebrity sites. I
he
have
has
to
an
say
AOL. I'll just say he has an AOL account.
Yes. And so does my friend Ted Rawl. But I was on the subway platform at 72nd and Broadway, and you know how you have to pre-walk. So I'm pre-walking down the platform.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's called pre-walking.
Okay.
And here's Joe Jackson.
Get out of here.
In a 3/4 length, very specific shade of blue coat, very tailored. And he's standing up and he starts to walk toward me, and I can't help but smile.
I thought Michael Jackson's father was dead.
I know. Or the boxer, right? Didn't Miles Davis do that thing about Joe Jackson? Anyway, yeah, so the Joe Jackson. Yeah. We'll call him the Joe Jackson of Look Sharp fame, New Wave era. Icon.
Stepping out into the light.
There you go. To the night.
Into the night, excuse me.
And so he's walking towards me on the platform, and I can't help but be smiling as he's walking toward me. And I say, "Hey, Joe Jackson, I love your music so much." Mm-hmm. And he just very politely, in a very understated voice, he just says, "Thank you." It was awesome. It was
He
so
can't be-
good.
He
It was
can't
so
be
great.
recognized frequently, though, right?
I don't know.
No way.
I don't
I
know.
don't know how. I'm not sure I would've
Elvis
recognized
Costello and Tony Bennett were sitting on a bench in Central Park last week.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Wow. You saw them?
No, well, somebody did, and they took a picture.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, you think people know who Elvis Costello, what he looks like?
Much more than... Well, Elvis Costello is far more well-known than Joe Jackson.
I don't know.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
No. Elvis has consistently been a huge celebrity for decades. Joe Jackson's kind of fallen out of the, I'd say, the general public's sphere radar.
He had a long run. He had a good 20-year run.
Okay, look, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve.
Yeah.
He's hugely talented and put on a great show. I only saw him once.
An incredible musician.
Yeah, no, totally.
Incredible singer. I mean, if you ever see he does a what's the one? I can't remember the name. I keep thinking of the Any Trouble song, "Girls Are Always Right," but it's kind of the opposite of that sentiment. And he's
down my street.
Yeah, that's the one.
See, stop him as my coffee goes cold. Look over there.
Yeah.
Where? There goes Jeannie with her new boyfriend.
Yeah.
That song I play on the guitar. Right?
Yeah, that's a nice one. And he sings it a cappella, and I'm telling you,
yeah.
it'll send chills up your spine.
Yeah.
So-
he's a
so-
huge talent.
So
I
great.
love Joe Jackson.
But yeah, I saw Soccer Channing a couple weeks ago.
Oh.
I was walking down
around here.
Down 96. Yeah, she lives like a block from here.
Yeah, you have got to. You live on the Upper Side here. There must be tons of well-known people.
I know you got to bring a friend on my walking tour. Come on my walking tour.
Right,
You'll
I
have
was
so
going to
much
ask you
fun.
about that.
Yeah. It's 5-star rated on TripAdvisor and
Really?
Yeah, and now Airbnb. I'm taking 6 women from the Midwest on Saturday.
I'll take 3.
Around
you start them up, I'll finish them off. That's a Woody Allen line.
But
yeah, I would. It's always been. I have my arrangement with my kid, and then everything else has made it. It's just been hard to
bring your
coordinate.
kid.
If the timing works out, I'm there.
It's always
that, even though I don't like walking around.
It's always available at noon, 7 days a week. All you
charge like $150 per head, don't you?
That's right. 100 notes, $35. It's only $35.
I thought
I'll comp you. You don't
sounds
even have to pay, man. Just come on the on the tour.
I will. Okay.
Yeah, you'll love it. I'm telling you, it's super fun. You see where Marlene Dietrich lived, a block from Madeline Kahn. And we were there. Somebody posted something about Madeline Kahn in Blazing Saddles, and if you remember Blazing Saddles, Madeline Kahn is doing She's doing a total homage to Marlene Dietrich.
Oh, absolutely.
And they lived a block away from each other, so that's pretty cool.
Let's stop for a second and just remember how unbelievably fantastic Madeline Kahn was.
She's so hilarious.
She was hilarious.
And everybody, all the biggies, like Carol Burnett loved Madeline Kahn.
Everybody loved her.
Everybody loved her.
She was so fantastic. And I mentioned Edie Falco. Do you remember that movie, Judy Berlin? It was directed by a guy named Eric Mendelsohn, who teaches up at Columbia. Okay. I've been chasing after Eric for my show.
Yeah.
He directed only 2 films, I believe, unless I'm mistaken. One, he's a writer. So one was called 3 Backyards, which I'm mentioning these films because you got to see them. They're both fantastic. Anyway, he shot his first movie was called Judy Berlin. It was a big festival success. Put him on the map, Eric. It stars Madeline Kahn.
Oh, wow.
Late in her career.
Yeah.
And
she died an untimely death. She had
cancer.
Was it cancer?
I think so.
I can't remember.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I think so. Anyway, she's missed. I think Madeline Kahn was just somebody who had it all. She could do theater, movies. She did the Burt Reynolds show. I think she was just like beautiful. She was beautiful. She was sexy. She was funny. What's sexier than a funny, pretty woman? Nothing. Anyway, I miss her. I think Madeline Kahn is one of the greats. Super talented, and I've never seen her do any. She's always good in whatever she does. She was always good in everything.
Her energy was just so bright. I always think of her in in Young Frankenstein.
Yeah,
and she worked with Mel Brooks a lot,
right?
And also Peter Bogdanovich.
Well, yeah, Paper Moon is. I was going to bring it up, and she was fantastic in that.
Yeah,
and she was a little vixen. I still in love with her. I guess there's my go-to.
Yeah. Vixen's a good word. I like vixen.
Anyway, there's a vixen to make a smooth transition in this movie we're supposed to talk about.
Yes,
Teresa Russell, another fantastic.
And
how beautiful
and
is she?
playing Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, and a great job at that. I will say that.
Yeah. So I know that we're on different sides of the coin.
Good.
Relating to this movie, I've been on a little bit of a Nicolas Roeg kick.
Mm.
We're all very sad to see Filmstruck pass away at only 2 years, and I personally am really devastated by it because I was working for Forbes when it launched, and I dropped what I was doing, and I launched a video series called Filmstruck Streaming.
Right, I've been watching them
to celebrate the movies that they were doing, and I made 10 episodes of Filmstruck Streaming.
Really well produced.
Thank you, thank you. Over the 2-year period. So now I've been trying to. My watch list is 150 movies, and I watched Track 29, which is also Teresa Russell and Gary Oldman, Nicolas Roeg film. Not as good as this film, which you don't think is that great. But I remember seeing the poster for this movie. We came in 85? Yeah. I remember seeing the poster and just thinking, what is that? Einstein and Marilyn Monroe, I'm sold. I've got to see that. I want to see what Marilyn Monroe and Einstein have to say to each other. Based on a play. Yeah. So
Nick Roeg, great. Yeah. Now, when I was on before, we did one Wim Wenders, The American Friend, right?
Yeah.
And what was the other one we did?
The Conversation.
No. Oh, right.
That was the first one. The Conversation.
Why do I keep thinking Bad Timing? What was that? Did we do something on that, or you guys did?
I think what happened was we were recording Bad Timing with Mike's girlfriend.
Oh, that's right.
The night that you came over to record The American Friend.
Oh, maybe that's what we maybe touched on it or something, because that's my favorite Roeg.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, he did Look Back. Don't Look Now. Don't Look Now with Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie. That could be my favorite, actually. That's a horrifying film.
It's a toss-up, and also I'm a big fan of Performance, which he co-directed. That's with Mick Jagger,
right? I know it.
Yeah, no, it's a brilliant movie. So, all right.
I just think this is a miss, but go ahead.
Okay, so it's high concept. I believe it's set in 1953, and it's the conceit of the film is that you end up getting these 4 very iconic cultural figures in the same room at the same time. Or I don't know if they're all in the room at the same time.
They all have the one moment together. You're right. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But they do. But they're so iconic that they're really just they're just labeled in their iconic. Well, in an iconic way. They're not mentioned by name.
Right.
One is called the movie star or something, and then one's the professor or the scientist. I forget. And one is called the senator.
The senator.
And the other one's the athlete or the ball player.
The ball player, I guess. Yeah.
So he's supposed to be Joe DiMaggio, played by Gary Busey, and
Gary Busey's I think he's hilarious.
He is good. They're all good, and the actors are good. Let me start off by saying what's good about it.
Sure.
I think Teresa Russell wouldn't strike me as the Marilyn Monroe, but she did a very good impression with dimension.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't just an impression. She hit some moments where she really got Marilyn Monroe down, but there has to be more to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So nobody else attempted to do an impression, as far as I can tell.
Well, Albert Einstein,
Michael, what's his name? Michael. Why am I blanking on his name now? This is Emile. Michael Emile.
Yeah.
Who is whose brother he is. He's Henry Jackman's brother, right? You know that.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Oh yeah, Michael Emile. He's not done anything as far as I know other than Henry Jackman movies.
Okay.
And
it's funny you're bringing up Henry Jackman because I'm having Jeremy Workman.
Oh right, of course.
Come on.
That's right. Who did a documentary
about Jackman, and no one knows unless you're New Yorker. I don't think Henry Jackman's really on anyone's radar.
Well, L.A. I mean, he's done many movies based in L.A., Hollywood, and he does the.
He did one set in Cannes.
Right. Yeah. They're jagged. He's a jagged pill. Yeah, we'll say that. But his brother is this bizarro guy who's been he co-starred with Dennis Hopper in one of the first Jaglom films. But I've never seen him outside of a Jaglom film. And so I saw Insignificance years ago, probably on a DVD or something. And then at least 10 years, maybe 15 years ago. And then this is the second time I've seen it. And I did not remember that it was Michael Emil because the last time I saw it, I probably didn't even know who Henry Jaglom was. But he's
based on a Terry Johnson play.
Right.
Terry Johnson
who wrote the screenplay for this, right?
Yeah, adapted the script, his own script, his own play for this screenplay.
Yeah. So when it comes down to the actual, I mean, we can talk. You were starting to set it up, so maybe I don't want to jump ahead of things, but maybe you want to continue talking about what the movie's about, because
so it's the nuclear era. This is a time.
Yes.
This is a time when teenagers all think that they're not going to make it to middle age because the nuclear bomb is going to go off.
Right.
And Einstein is being called upon to speak at the House on Un-American Activities Committee hearings, Joe McCarthy's notorious witch hunt, which he is refusing to do. And Marilyn Monroe is in the process of breaking up with Joe DiMaggio. She's going cold. They're having baby issues, or pregnancy issues, I should say. And so it all takes place pretty much in Einstein's hotel room in New York. He's visiting New York. He's got all of his papers with him, all of his notes on
making the nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
Why do you suppose this took place in New York? Wouldn't it have taken place in? Well, let's say it opens. The movie opens at the screening, or I guess at the premiere of the Creature from the Black Lagoon.
No, they're
No, it takes place at because that's the place where no, wait, they're filming. That's right, they're filming the Billy Wilder movie.
Some Like It Hot.
No, it's not Some Like It Hot. It's the one with Tom Ewell. It's where his wife's out of town for the summer.
Oh,
and yeah.
What is that movie?
Come on, don't.
All right, no. I'll
Anyway, it's true in the real movie in the real movie, he takes Marilyn Monroe to her character to the movies to escape the heat, because it's like they're both they don't have air conditioning in their apartments.
Yes,
she lives in the same apartment building as Tom Ewell's character. This was a play too, by the way.
Okay, I'm searching.
Yeah. Billy Wilder directed it. And so it starts in this shot where they're coming out of the theater and she stands over the subway grate, and of course her dress blows up. That's the now here's what I found out, that are you looking it up?
I am looking it up.
The result of beer is always the okay, so it's probably right around the time of Some Like It, right before Some Like It Hot.
We are searching on.
Yeah, there it is. 7-Year Itch, of course. 7-Year Itch. It was a very, very.
That's a racy title.
The 7-Year Itch.
Yeah.
Well, it's notorious that 7 years into a relationship is when the man starts to get the itch to step out of the and have an affair. So that's a
colloquialism.
So anyway, in the movie 7-Year Itch, they step outside of the movie theater and she stamps on the subway grating and her dress flies up.
Yep.
What's great is you see in the opening sequence is the guys under the grate who are, because they had to reshoot it. They did it on a real subway one, but it didn't work out. And so they reshot it in the studio. This is just, wasting time now because I'm telling you, I looked it up and I found this out.
Yeah, setting it up.
They showed the guys under the grate who had the fan that got to peek up. And it's a great idea. So the movie starts off with this great scene, for any movie fan, because it's all about a movie in a movie, right?
Yep.
And then it follows her in a cab. She takes the cab to the hotel room to drop in on Albert Einstein.
Yeah, she stops off at a bodega.
Mm-hmm.
And she
She gets a bunch of candy or stuff, or what?
Yeah,
she gets,
some toys.
Toys. Oh, right, because she wants to talk about science with him.
Right, and she gets the chauffeur's watch inexplicably.
Anyway, so, and then the whole ensuing thing is that, right, the senator who's played by Tony Curtis, coincidentally or not, out of all the actors, right, he's the one who knew Marilyn. I just feel like it feels like a play adaptation, and it feels that it's just so talky, and like it must have worked as a play, I'm assuming, but I don't feel like it worked as a movie. Mm-hmm. I did not see the play, of course, but I just don't feel like
I like the iconography, and I like the title. I like the way that Insignificance frames these cultural icons who converse. And I'll tell you, the scene that I enjoyed the most is between DiMaggio and Einstein. And I just think it's a great. It's so much fun to watch these two individuals from vastly different worlds talking and listening to each other. I was fascinated by the way Einstein listens to DiMaggio, and they find common ground.
He's very amused by.
And so, what I like about the movie is that it humanizes these people in the context of this very dark time in American history when
it is. And we're there again, by the way.
Yes, indeed. And
we're discussing politics and craft beer.
That's right. And that's part of what I think too.
It does hold significance.
Because everybody's so distracted with Donald Trump, and I think personally that if corporate media would just ignore him completely, he's firing, he's not allowing Acosta, press credentials anymore, or whatever. What it would happen if the White House held a press conference and no one came?
I agree with that.
But
I don't.
Because here's the thing: is there's so
Donald Trump would be happy.
Well, I guess, and let him be. Maybe that's what he needs. But there are so many more pressing issues and stories, and the media just keeps hammering everything that this guy farts out of his. He's like
his mouth.
He's like the ass clown who lets the circus fart go every day. I'm tired of the circus farts.
Yeah. There is a direct link from Senator McCarthy to Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
By 1 degree.
Tell me.
Roy Cohn. And so, right, of all the people, of all the people that would be your mentor, you choose Roy Cohn. Mm-hmm. How low a person can you be? Mm-hmm. And isn't that enough to tip anybody in the world off? Mm-hmm. Why in the world would you allow McCarthy's secondhand guy, Roy Cohn, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then he comes up again in the if anybody's seen Angels in America, if you want to use the films as touchstones or plays,
absolutely.
There's another great way to see the Roy Cohn, right?
Yeah.
In his dying days of AIDS, where he's still denying he's even gay, right?
Right.
And that he has AIDS. So fuck all these other people that are dying of AIDS. Mm-hmm. I don't have that disease, right? So anyway. Mm-hmm. And then he is Donald Trump's his protege. I mean, too much, just too much, and that people, vote for him, and I just
and of course in Mary Harron's American Psycho.
Oh right, yeah, that's another good.
Patrick Bateman's hero is Donald Trump.
Yep,
that's his role model.
That's fiction.
Of course it is.
I know, but
I'm just saying, from a cultural perspective, all of these. Breadcrumbs keep leading in the same
destination, right? Yeah. Anyway, so but you're right. There is a a certain amount of I guess relative themes going on here that we can relate to today, but. What is it that I'm I guess having a problem with? It feels.
Well, you're having a problem with the fact that it's a play, and
Yeah, so few of them have been adapted.
It's a little claustrophobic. Yeah, it's very very hard to do adaptations. I think Polanski's Tess might be my favorite
That was a play?
Literary adaptation.
Literary.
No, I guess play. I'd still go with Polanski. I'd go with Macbeth.
Plays
Polanski's Macbeth
are different than books. Most book adaptations are not a problem. And such an enormous number of books are adapted. It's not. There's a lot more freedom there. With a play, it's a little bit more constrained because you've already had actors staged. It's already been staged with actors, so a filmmaker has to needs to go back to the original source and adapt it, not work with the staged version because you can't compare them. Mm-hmm. And that's why some Neil Simon plays worked or some Tennessee Williams plays were adapted better than others because some of them felt just like, okay, we're taking the same principles that made the play a success and we're applying it to a film. You can't do it. Generally.
Although Cat on a Hot Tin Roof is great.
But maybe there's less of that.
It's very theatrical, and yet it's great.
Yeah. Just waiting for that click. You remember that scene? Paul Newman? When he's talking to Elizabeth Taylor, wasn't it, right? She plays Cat, right? And he plays Brick, right? And he's an alcoholic, and he's just like, he drinks, and he's just waiting for that click. Which it's beautifully written. I mean, it's about that moment where the alcohol hits, and he's now numb, emotionally in other ways, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
I just remember that moment. I feel like it's a clunky adaptation, and it feels claustrophobic. That's a good way of putting it.
Well, the Tony Curtis, I like the way that you see his hypocrisy, where he has the prostitute come to his room and he's not really able to perform.
Right.
But then when Marilyn Monroe wants to try and bribe him, he fronts. I've never paid for it in my life, and he punches her in the stomach. He induces.
I didn't think about that.
Right. He supposedly induces. He aborts her baby by punching her in the gut, and so I appreciate if you can dial in to the film's tone, which I guess it's true. It's a little difficult to dial it into to be in that 1953 mindset while you're watching it. But it's an interesting movie, and Nicolas Roeg is a fascinating filmmaker.
Oh, for sure. And in the pantheon of his work, I think you need to see this.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you should.
Well,
see
and also
anything
that Teresa Russell is in, or Tony Curtis, or even Gary Busey back in the day. This is around the time that he had done he played Buddy Holly, which was amazing, and he was also in Big Wednesday, wasn't he?
Well, much earlier, I think.
Yeah,
that was
not that much earlier, like 7 years or 5 years earlier.
Okay.
Or something, I think Big Wednesday's
really?
late 70s. He
seems so young in that. Jesus. Right?
Yeah. I don't know. I think I find it fascinating. Oh, here we're looking at the scene where we got DiMaggio coming into Einstein's hotel room, and there's Marilyn Monroe in that iconic white dress.
Right.
I love the conceit of it. It's high concept, and I'm fascinated by it.
I wonder.
I think that it's really. It's energized in a way because you've got these people who I think it's easy to not think of them as human beings. Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
That guy. She Marilyn Monroe flirts with him and puts him in a very sexually uncomfortable position, and he's there in his boxers. And just the idea of Marilyn Monroe flirting with Einstein in his hotel room while he's in his boxers, I think that's hilarious.
Do you think this is during the time when wasn't Teresa Russell involved with Nick Roeg? Weren't they a couple?
I don't know.
I think so.
I would not be surprised. He certainly worked with her a lot.
Did they do More Than Bad Timing in this one?
Well, they did Track 29. The other.
Track 29. Okay, so at least 3.
So I know they did at least 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think they were a couple for a while, but I may be misspeaking, but I think that's true.
Interesting.
But she is just so gorgeous.
I love the scene when Einstein throws all of his work out the window.
Right.
That's a great. There's something just very liberating about the idea that Einstein. Just seeing that, here's Einstein. He's worked his butt off on, the plan, essentially the plans for the nuclear bomb, and he just chucks, rather than let the U.S. government take hold of them, he just chucks them out the window of his high-rise hotel room. I love that.
They're into his brain,
Yeah.
And
yeah, the homework's been done.
But there is a nice moment where he does talk about. Does he talk about it with Marilyn? Where he says, "Yeah, I think so," because that's where they had the most sort of meaningful
when they're
discussions.
You talk about the theory of relativity.
Well, no, late in the film, and he, he feels he's burdened that he helped create this, the destruction of the world,
right.
and the children. Remember he mentions the children, because I guess they in '53, they had already dropped the bomb years earlier on Hiroshima and on Nagasaki, and he feels complicit and liable, right?
Yeah.
So that's a nice moment, but I'm kind of like a conventional in that way, I like conventional, dramatic. I gravitate a little towards the sentimental more than I would like to admit, and so maybe I'm looking for that. And this film is pretty, stripped of sentimentality and of that kind of thing. It's not that kind of movie. It's not.
No, you get some insight into DiMaggio.
As you say, it's all about concept.
Into DiMaggio's history.
Yeah.
Where his dad beans him with the ball.
Right.
It's
a nice moment though, because it's outside of the play.
Yeah. To teach him, what baseball is all about. The pitcher's going to throw at you once in a while, and
right.
And if it's your dad throwing a 70-mile-an-hour fastball, then so be it.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the way that it. I guess my favorite scene really is between DiMaggio and Einstein, because there's this tendency among the literati to put down sports and athletes, and that's a jock thing.
Right, it's the highbrow and the lowbrow connecting. Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
and
right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that both of those sides are thought of as underestimating the other.
Right. But there's the grass is always greener for those types of people. It's I'm sure the erudite academic type or scholar always wants to be able to throw a fastball, you know what I mean? And then, or always loves sports, and then the sports figure always feels like they're being underappreciated, right? Or what have you. So I see what, yeah.
And the relationship problems between Monroe and DiMaggio.
Yeah.
It's just it humanizes these people in a literary context that I don't think that this is by any means.
It looks flat to me. Also,
a great movie, but it's an interesting film, and it's one that I've been curious about for a long time, and I really appreciate the fact that on Filmstruck there's so many movies that you've been curious about, and you can just dial it up and hit play and watch that.
You can't unless you already have a subscription, because you can't subscribe anymore. I don't think. It's only a couple of weeks left of the
right. I think it's I don't even know if it's all the way through November. It may drop off before the last day of the month.
It's ending in probably about 2 weeks, right around Thanksgiving weekend. And sad. It's sad. It is a sad thing. Look, this is through.
We've featured on the Grande Bouffe. We have featured a lot of.
I know you have
Filmstruck titles.
I know the overwhelming majority. I would think you have, but here's the thing: Warner Brothers is been sold by Time Warner.
They got
Time by AT&T.
AT&T.
And they jettisoned Filmstruck. Mm-hmm. Now Warner Brothers is going to release this, create its own new streaming platform. That's the word, right? So, what I think, Filmstruck, Criterion Collection. The whole idea is they, by the way, were available on other platforms, primarily Hulu, right? Which was sort of an odd relationship to begin with. Talk about high and low.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Criterion was necessarily the right place for, people that go on and want to watch SNL. Mind you, both fantastic things. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that it's a juxtaposition there between most of the content on Hulu. I mean, if you want to watch Archer and Spider-Man, and then you're going to watch like the best of his, Kurosawa films, it didn't make sense to me for that to be their main home. So I think that like a good majority, a lot of films from Criterion now are available on the Canopy platform, Kanopy, which if you have a library card and your library participates with Canopy, it's a two-step thing. Getting a library card is free. That's easy. You can go to your, but you have to belong to a library which subscribes to Canopy. So if you go to,
and I know the New York Public Library does.
Yeah, and the Brooklyn and the Queen, they're all on Canopy. So if you have an account, you can get a free subscription to Canopy and play it on your phone, your tablet, or your computer.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great stuff on there.
Yes, there is. I agree with you. You're right.
That, I think
I'm glad you brought that up.
You don't have to pay for it.
Really glad you brought that
By
up.
the way, because the library, meaning the government, I guess, is
I know. I just renewed my library card because of Canopy.
Good for you.
Canopy.
And then you realize, I can use this for other things. The entire Frederick Wiseman, who's a regular guest on my show, his entire collection of films,
documentaries,
all of his 40-plus documentaries are available on Canopy.
That's terrific. That's amazing.
That's not true on Filmstruck.
No.
So I would like to see all of Criterion on Canopy, and I'd like to see all the bonus content, which is a nice thing.
Absolutely.
Like if you go to
I say the same thing about Kino Lorber and Janus and TCM,
all the participating distributors that have their content on
Filmstruck.
On Filmstruck. Now and then the bonus content is great. So if you go to if you have a current subscription to Filmstruck, you can go to you can watch Insignificance right now. And then you can also watch the making of, and there's interviews with the producers. There's one with the producer and Nick Roeg.
Yeah, I saw that.
And the trailer, whatever. Yeah. But the point is, some of the movies have some other movies on Filmstruck that have great bonus content.
Absolutely.
That's why I like to buy DVDs. But
I agree.
Anyway.
But also New York Apartment, I'm maxed out.
Yeah.
With how many DVDs I can own. I can't own any more DVDs. I just don't have anywhere to put them.
Yeah, it just stacks, I guess.
At a certain point, you just have to do triage and figure, trade out the DVDs.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it. Insignificance. NICOLAS ROEG, 1985. But, my Nick Roeg go-tos I mentioned already, so.
Yeah.
Is there a performance on there too? It must be, right? On Filmstruck?
No, only track 29 and Insignificance.
Don't Look Now is not on there?
No.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. But that's on Criterion, isn't it? I thought it was.
Yeah, well,
yes, it is.
They don't. It's not that Filmstruck has everything.
Okay, so they have different.
And they filter things through, or they have things that are will be available for a limited time, and then they'll bring other things in.
Mm-hmm. I see. I wonder if that's all just a strategic thing from I don't want to say marketing, but a programming standpoint, or if it's a legal thing. Like I don't know, but
I think it's probably
why they don't just put everything up.
Well, that's a good question. I don't know.
If they have the rights, that's the thing. Sometimes they don't necessarily have the streaming rights with the,
Well, I'm really happy that you brought up the Canopy issue because I don't think many people know about Canopy, and I know there's going to be a lot of Filmstruck people that are going to be audiences that are going to be looking for ways that they can see old great movies, especially because in this day and age, the new movies that come out are, for the most part, now we're in award season, so they're getting a little better. But for the most part, Hollywood is just, the superhero thing. I can't believe it's like that. That dog has been dead for a while, and they're just going to kick that thing as long as they can. Well, but from a cinematic point of view, there's just no there as far as I'm concerned.
No.
Like if I
but
never,
that's not why
if I,
people are
if
going
I,
to
if I
that.
never see another superhero movie again, it'll be too soon. I don't care about
Well, I
it.
get that, but I mean, they're it's just like a lot of escapist stuff. I mean, let's face it. Right now, escapist stuff seems pretty good.
Yeah,
I
thought,
mean, what are you going to do? Sit home and watch
Rhapsody is
MSNBC?
Great. I
haven't seen that yet.
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. I know a lot of people are beating it up because they didn't really go deep enough into what a sex, drugs, and rock and roll maniac Freddie Mercury was.
And did they go into his dying, or is it just a postscript?
Yeah, it goes into all that stuff.
His AIDS?
But it doesn't. But it doesn't put too fine a point on it because it's a celebration
of that album.
Of his musical career and of him as a musician and of that band.
Right.
And and of course his place in the culture is in LGBT culture, like David Bowie. He was a rebel. He was an innovator, and he, I think, he
totally
filled a pretty big pair of shoes.
Yeah, I mean, he was right. These epic songs that were
all anthemic.
Just incredible production values.
Yeah,
and, interesting.
And also, I don't know if you know this, but he had 4 extra molars, and that's why he had that big overbite, and that gave him more singing range.
Oh,
so I learned that in the movie.
Oh, I did not know.
Yeah, that's
because someone's like, "What an overbite this guy has!" Jesus
Christ.
Yeah. I thought it was better for I don't know.
What. Sir, you are but so lewd.
No, I could see it being actually more of a detriment now that I think about it. Well, so I guess R.I.P. in the future to Filmstruck, but can it be? And I think I think that I don't know enough about the financial dimension to Criterion, but I think that they should just need to put it up as wherever they can, I would think, because people need to see these movies, and are they really going to make a fortune off of their deal with Filmstruck? I don't know. Maybe they did. Maybe they did very well.
I don't know.
But this is not working. I mean, I don't know if ultimately it was not necessarily a financial failure. See, that's the problem. We don't know. I think it's through this sale, and I think that the reason why the plug is pulled is not necessarily because it wasn't making enough money for Criterion. Now, they may not have been making enough money for Warner Brothers or AT&T's satisfaction, or they were making enough money, for Warner Brothers to create their own streaming platform.
And there's always egos involved. I know in the beginning, it was TCM really were holding the reins on Filmstruck, and so they weren't happy about people like Kino Lorber getting higher billing than TCM, and I think part of that too was with Criterion. Yeah, I think that there was
what happened.
I think that Filmstruck, the way when it was conceived, there was a hierarchy with TCM Films and Criterion because supposedly
TCM is a brand though. It's not a distribution company.
Sure it is. They have their own channel.
Yeah, but the TCM leaned on Warner, like certain Warner Brothers and MGM or something like that, right? Didn't they?
Filmstruck was primarily a TCM entity.
Right, but the TCM is a brand that they use. Their distribution arrangement was with whoever owns the films.
And the license,
TCM doesn't own them.
And they have the licensing for all these movies.
The reason why they use TCM as their brand is because people know that name. They don't know the distributors. They don't care about that.
Well, they know Criterion. They know Kino Lorber. They know Janus.
They don't know Kino. I would disagree about Janus and Kino Lorber. I would say only a small segment of people know Criterion.
But see, this is
if you talk to anybody about Criterion, they're not going to. They know Warner Brothers.
Cinephiles,
a little bit.
Believe me, cinephiles.
But they know TCM in a big way.
Cinephiles know.
Cinephiles do.
Yeah, and I think that was the problem is that when you look at how many people are driven to be this audience, how big the audience for this content is, it's not that great, and so it's a boutique.
That's why TCM
and the great thing about having that boutique is, hopefully you can enlarge it, but you have to start somewhere. And if you're just going to crush it before it has that chance, which is what I see happening, then you're neglecting a part of culture that exists and that we want to continue to exist.
For sure. But here's the thing. Okay, first of all, I know we probably have to wind down soon, but if you're listening to this, correct me if I'm wrong. Why on earth are TCM and Criterion in the same sentence or mouthful? Okay, first of all, that doesn't necessarily make sense. Those are two different types of movies. They really are. There is world art cinema, and there is classic Hollywood. Those are two different categories. Do they belong on the same platform? Perhaps. For a small population of cinephiles, it's a nice thing to get together, right? Because whatever mood you're in, there might be something there for you.
Sure, yeah.
However,
you might want to watch the original Cape Fear and then watch a Fassbinder movie, which to me, that's a natural marriage.
But how many? Yeah, but you're not the typical person.
Right.
That's
what we're talking about. Cinephiles are not the typical people.
Okay.
And if you probably
I'm not talking about that.
If you surveyed how many people are hardcore cinephiles in America, my guess is it would probably be about 250,000, maybe 300,000. Is not that many people.
And I would say to you that even people,
but they're hardcore.
But there's a population of those people that consider themselves cinephiles or movie lovers that really don't know about the next level down, which is Criterion. I don't know what that means versus Warner Brothers versus Kino Lorber. No, I have to disagree. I don't think anybody knows what Kino Lorber is. And by the way, as you know, I did a podcast for Kino Lorber. They didn't market the podcast. Nobody in the world is going to go to Kino Lorber's website. Nobody's going to go there to shop. Give me a break. I love them, mind you. And they own the entire, I think it's the MGM catalog. They bought it.
Wow.
So that's their reissue component, silo, if you will, is Kino Lorber's is the MGM catalog. They have hundreds and hundreds of titles through that purchase.
And I think
weren't a
lot of Marilyn Monroe films MGM?
Sure. But they have their current new movies are art films, right? Documentaries and art house films and foreign titles, right?
Yeah.
New titles. Like Charles Cohen does with Cohen Media, right?
Right.
So Nobody really knows about that. Not in a way that's going to affect new subscribers to a service. Okay, so what you need is a brand, and that's what they did do right. TCM is the right brand because TCM, which is available in I don't know. I'm going to guess 60-70% of homes. I mean through cable.
If you have cable,
yeah. Well, most people do. No, most people don't. Okay, I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay.
I left cable.
Oh, okay. That's because
I have an Amazon Fire Stick.
You're living in your city. You have, okay. But I will still say that an enormous population. I'm not going to. I would be arbitrarily grabbing that, like I just did, saying 60-70%. I don't know. Yeah, but a lot of people have cable, and they know about classic movies because of the successful TCM, Turner Classic Movies branding.
Absolutely.
That's how come Filmstruck was doing okay. They were not getting any new subscriptions, except for it's like Donald Trump's base, right? They're not going to get new people. They just have the racists that are out of their fucking minds, right? So Criterion has these cinephiles that are out of their minds, like you and me. But they're not going to get any new people. But TCM is their way to get
I agree.
more average people that consider themselves movie lovers, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So now, why in the world? What's the upside for Warner Brothers, who owns TCM, to just not use it on their own? That's why I think.
You think they're going to take it over and
I think that TCM
do their own
catalog.
They're going to do their own version.
Yeah. Warner Brothers catalog. It makes the money for Filmstruck, not Criterion.
Okay, so do you think that?
And I love Criterion. So.
Of course. Do you think that goes without saying? Do you think that Warner Brothers will create their own Filmstruck, whatever?
I do.
They
don't need Filmstruck.
Classic film entity that includes things like Kino Lorber and Janus and TCM.
I don't know about that. I don't know what
Criterion.
Those are art house films. Maybe.
Well, we're talking about art house film. I mean,
yeah. No, but I'm saying two different things. I'm saying that.
So that's the umbrella.
Canopy is where people should go for that.
Yeah.
Or something like Canopy. That I don't think that Warner Brothers sees the financial advantage. They're all about the bottom line. They have no interest in art films. So
right.
Even though a Nicholas Ray film, could be, or there are a lot of great films that are Hollywood classics. It's a
cultural schism.
How that Orson Welles film
that exists. Yeah, boy, we could really throw down on the Orson Welles thing. I just watched the documentary, and
they'll love me when I'm dead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But
in preparation for watching The Other Side of the Wind, but what we're nailing down here is this cultural schism about being profit driven, because so many filmmakers, there's been tons of independent filmmakers who everything they ever did was a labor of love, and we're all richer for it, but they didn't make much, if anything, on a lot of movies, and it's that distance between art and commerce.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that Filmstruck attempted that blend.
Yeah,
and that's mostly probably was driven by Criterion, is my guess.
Yeah,
because I don't see the upside. Again, I'm repeating myself, but I don't see the upside for Warner's or whoever. Right, is the other company that merged with that created this hybrid. I don't see their upside. They thought, oh well, nothing to lose. We'll put all this stuff. Criterion will do all the publicity and all the they'll do all the footwork. No, we'll just give them licensing.
It was a TCM thing from the beginning. Film.
No, I know that. I'm just saying, who did the footwork? I bet it wasn't Warner's. What's the upside of it? They're not making money. They didn't make much money or a negligible amount, is my guess, off of Filmstruck.
Okay, well here's what I think is that they weren't doing that because it wasn't promoted. If you said Filmstruck to people,
no, right.
I introduced Filmstruck to all of my friends.
Right.
I mean, I probably got them 25 subscribers personally just from word of mouth.
Yeah.
Because I was so excited about it when it started. But you never saw any advertising for Filmstruck anywhere.
I did.
Did you?
I saw it in some magazine ads.
Did
but
you?
Who looks at magazines anymore either?
Right.
Right.
Right. I mean,
you're right.
I think that they didn't really make that push.
Do they advertise on Turner Classic Movies? Because I don't watch it regularly enough. You don't have cable anymore. You said that already.
Yeah.
So you don't
know
either.
Been watching Filmstruck for 2 years.
You don't know. If they just did the tirelessly plugged Filmstruck, they might have grown. I don't know. They were bought space on major networks. I really don't know what would have helped. All I can say is that Criterion only has its base. It cannot get beyond that, and I fear for Criterion Janus, because I don't know, once we're in the our particles are in the ether, I don't know who's following us in the quite, I don't know, are there legions of younger? There are some, of course, there will always be, but is it in the numbers? So what we need is an underwriter, like the public library system.
It's a microcosm
to stream these films.
It's a microcosm of art house cinema, and what art house cinema has always been. And you saw what happened.
I'm just talking about the survival of this content, and so it needs is what's beautiful about the Canopy relationship. Yeah. In my limited understanding of these things, and I think I'm probably more knowledgeable than the average person.
I just want to say that they put together this petition to save Filmstruck.
Yes, I know.
And as of today, I think they have 70,000 signatures, which is very small.
Very small.
Tiny.
That's not even probably a tenth of the people that subscribe. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. I agree.
How many people subscribe, do you think? Under a million?
I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head. I think it's probably somewhere between,
I should have signed it.
I think it's probably somewhere between 800,000 and a million.
Who was the celebrities that were out there? I think that the timing of this is unfortunate because, you know what, with the midterm elections and everything else going on, it feels a little bit...
it's bitter.
It feels a little bit like misguided use of energy and of to be talking about Filmstruck. That's the problem. Again, I don't see that that way. I think there's room for everything. Both are important.
I agree.
But I can just say that if the beauty part is Canopy is underwritten by a government, right? Yeah. It's a socialist platform.
Well, we have Carnegie is who you have to thank for that.
Okay.
Because Andrew Carnegie was
left an endowment.
He was a Scottish industrialist who made all of his money in the steel industry, and during the last 15
Carnegie. Yeah.
I like how you say that. And during the last 15 years of his life, he gave away 90% of his fortune, the equivalent of $270 billion, to charities and foundations and universities in the interest of education, libraries, scientific research, and world peace. Wow. So that's who we have to thank for the entire. And if you've seen Frederick Weissman's Ex Libris documentary, it talks all about this, and how we have Carnegie to thank for our whole beautiful, magnificent public library system.
Okay, so
if we have more people like that, if there were more Carnegies, people, the millionaires and billionaires and trillionaires who would, have
the Kochs, the Mercers.
No, more like the Soroses and
right. No, I know. The thing is, okay. So, but it's underwritten. So this is the way. Whether it's the New York Public Library, which is underwritten by, to some degree, it's still.
I think Carnegie's Foundation is still dumping money into them. Yeah.
Wow. But so it's underwritten. So that's how come it can be available on the public library. Well, they're not a gateway. What is the word? They're the how do you say it? When you have to have a membership, so you can go right to Canopy's website, but you have to log in with your library
with your
account
with your password. Which I have to still get my password straight. I tried.
Yeah. Go to the library though. They'll straighten it out for you. Go just stop by
believe
there.
me, there's one. Yeah,
I have a membership to both the Queens Public Library and the Brooklyn Public Library, and I'm actually on the Brooklyn Public Library system for my Canopy. Yeah. And I've watched. I've been watching a number of things.
Tell me what have you watched on Canopy?
This is a long episode.
That's all right.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Just write it in your notes that half of the episodes dedicated to this. It's a worthwhile conversation because, you're right. Filmstruck is going away in no time, and both of our listenerships are people that love Filmstruck and will miss it. So it's a good way to use our time. I watched. I watched a documentary about Alfred Hitchcock. I watched one about
the one about Hitchcock and Truffaut. That one?
No, not that. No. That's available on there though, I believe.
Okay.
That's a great film.
Yeah, it's great.
Based on the interview book that
that everybody, all cinephiles own.
Yeah, sure.
The Silver Book.
But this was a mediocre, probably a British television documentary. I just love watching these things because I always learn a little bit more about.
My first pet's name was Alfred.
Based on Alfred Hitchcock?
Yeah. Oh. When I was 9, I had a goldfish named Alfred.
At 9, you knew who Alfred Hitchcock was?
Oh, because of all the Alfred Hitchcock Presents.
Oh, okay.
All that stuff.
But that was...
And I'd see,
that was way before your time, though.
No, I was born in 1963. I mean, all that stuff was in the 1960s.
And
I'd seen The Birds on television.
Oh, that's true. And Psycho was something you couldn't watch yet but knew about. And then
exactly.
Family Plot came out a couple of years later, and
which is an underrated movie. Critics hated Family Plot.
It being very good, but I saw it in the movies. It's the only Alfred Hitchcock movie.
It's better than you think.
It's the only Alfred Hitchcock movie I saw, and it's theatrical because it was his last movie.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't old enough to see anything else before that in the movie theater, and he didn't really have very much.
It's a fun movie. It's Alfred Hitchcock having fun, just kicking up his heels and doing a dark comedy. I think it's. It's delightful.
It's a satire.
Yeah.
With Bruce Stern.
Yeah, kind of a spoof.
Bruce Stern.
Yeah, Karen Black.
Right, and what was that cutie pie? The other actress with the that he used no, he didn't use her very much, but she was in Altman used her in Nashville. Little petite thing with curly hair. She's adorable. Anyway, people listening know who I'm talking about. Where's my watch on the Canopy which I'm on my app, on my phone.
Or we're about to get some insider.
Well, I'm just trying to remember. There's really a lot of great films on here.
I know that there are.
If you like indie
I have to
films.
say, I'm currently watching Alexander Nevsky, which I've always wanted to see on Filmstruck.
So it doesn't have a history. I don't think it doesn't show, because I was trying to remember what I've seen already on there. But I've seen about 2 or 3, not a lot. But I've seen a few things on here on the Canopy platform. So I'm going to recommend people at least check it out. Again, all you need is a library card, and the library. Not every library.
So is it
subscribes?
So it's across America.
Fred Wiseman, who just did my podcast like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Because he has a new documentary called Monrovia, Indiana.
Yeah, I'm really curious about that.
It's about 2 hours long. So for Fred Wiseman,
for a Frederick Wiseman movie, it's a bargain.
It's a short film.
Yeah.
Ex Libris was probably 3 hours.
That was too long. I think you needed to go eat that thing with
Jackson Heights
with the knife.
Was 4+ hours, I think.
Titty Cut Follies is only about 89 minutes.
Well, his early films were much shorter.
Yeah.
But now people can check them out and pause them if they have to take a break, because the whole catalog of Frederick Wiseman, one of the great documentary filmmakers, is available on Canopy, and a good amount of Criterion is. So I'm glad they did that. I'm going to watch a couple of Criterion films.
Yeah, it's time to live out your.
But I used your login. Thank you very much, because I have no longer subscribed. I had a free subscription for a while, and
least
ended.
I could do.
I watched Chimes at Midnight, the Orson Welles film.
Okay.
Which I hadn't seen in many years.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it. It was so good. It's so good. And that is not available on Canopy yet.
I do think after watching They'll Love Me When I'm Dead, that...
You want to see it?
That... I think that he was living. I think that he was really living on his fame, and I think he had become a bit of a shyster in the end. I think that Wells, he would just go and eat these huge lunches every day. I think that he knew how to milk his fame, and that and who can blame him?
No. What it was is that. Through like 2 or 3 films in a row, he, fell from grace from Hollywood. Well, very quickly.
Touch of Evil was the one that killed him.
No. He, even Magnificent Emerson's his second film, and so he was still probably in his... he was in his 20s.
They took it away from him.
He was sent to Argentina to do a documentary.
Right. And then they recut it.
They abandoned him, and he never got the money for it. But I don't know. I think he just made enemies. He had just a series of bad luck, and he didn't finish a number of projects. But he made still a tremendous number of very successful films, and he acted, of course, to make money in a lot of stuff, and he was paid really handsomely. So he had money, and then he would go through it, and he tried to fund his own projects. So I would say. That right through to the end, because The Other Side of the Wind was pretty close to the end of his life. Right, he died in '85.
But he'd been making that movie.
Another thing that happened in 1985, other than Insignificance, was the death of Orson Welles. But for up to 10 years, 76, I think they were still trying to get. He was trying to raise money for The Other Side of the Wind. I don't know that I quite take such a harsh take on him. I think he definitely had an outsized ego. Don't get me wrong. And that's where you're right. But I think that he was legitimately trying to make, and he did not sacrifice. He did not sell out. He could have sold out. And right to the end, he died at the age of 70. He never sold out. So I have to say, and he did wine commercials, and he did do that kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong, to raise money. But he deserves, and I'm been immersed in the last year. I'm reading interviews now with him and Peter Bogdanovich. I'm finishing that up. I've been watching a lot of stuff and reading a lot of stuff.
I just bought
and I found out a lot more about Orson Welles.
I just bought the William Friedkin memoir. I'm waiting. I ordered it. Waiting for that thing to show up.
Well, that's when he did my podcast, and when I met him at his book signing, and I have a photograph with Friedkin, and he signed my book, and I lost it.
Oh no!
Yeah, I have another copy, but
it's not signed.
Oh no, but I've been meaning to send it to his office.
Yeah.
And asking him to sign it. I'll do that. I shouldn't wait on that.
His building shows up on the walking tour too, where he lived with Jean Moreau.
What?
At the corner of what?
With who?
At Jean Moreau.
Oh, Jean Moreau. William Friedkin or Orson Welles?
William Friedkin.
William Friedkin?
Yeah, he married Jean Moreau.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Right after all the success he had with the French Connection and The Exorcist, he lived out all of his Francophile obsessions.
Right.
He married his French actress icon.
She's so fantastic.
And
I love her.
She
was my go-to. See, and
he made that remake of
Wages of Fear.
Wages of Fear.
Yeah.
Sorcerer.
But that's why the movie failed, because they should have called it Wages of Fear. Yeah.
Well, it didn't help that it opened on the same day as Star Wars.
Oh, I forgot about that. But that wouldn't have killed the film. It could still have gotten...
What killed the film was him. Speaking of divas, he had made himself persona non grata because he was such a diva. He treated everyone poorly, and so Paramount wouldn't put any money into the distribution. I think
it's so hard to imagine. He's so wonderful. God, I mean, he's
very
so
loquacious and
magnanimous,
friendly. I spent 20 minutes. I had a one-on-one interview in Cannes on a yacht, and for Bug, and I walked out, got off the yacht, and I said, "Well,
I can stop now.
Yeah, I'm
not good.
Yeah,
I'm good.
I'm good. It's all gravy now."
He's just so fantastic.
Yeah.
And then, so Chimes of Midnight, because there's only very few degrees of separation in anything we've been talking about. That she is in that movie with Orson Welles. She is his the whore who is also his, a woman in this bar, this saloon that he lives in. Jean Moreau is in it. It's a very odd casting, but anything I can see Jean Moreau. See, there's the Catherine Deneuve camp, and then there's the Jean Moreau camp. I would give them both. I went with Jean Moreau because I thought she was so sexy, but I would give them both up for Bridget Bardot and
when they were 24, they
just
were
a guy.
They were all incredible powerhouses.
Yeah, you have to choose.
But I did interview Catherine Deneuve in Cannes for the Marjane Satrapi.
Oh, that's
film.
A wonderful film.
And
she did the voice for right. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and so I was just beside myself the whole time that I was sitting there. She's smoking these little thin French cigarettes. Yeah.
My version of that is when I had Liv Ullmann on my show.
Oh, wow.
We were flirting like mad.
Excellent.
And she's like 70 whatever years old. I didn't care.
Yeah, that's great.
I saw the beauty that she is.
Of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Liv Ullmann.
Yeah.
This has been so much fun.
This has been a blast.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the show again, Mr. Schartoff. We will certainly have you back in the future.
Anytime.
And I would like to encourage all of our listeners from all of the faraway lands. I know we have people listening in Tokyo and Dubai and all these faraway places. Please visit colesmithy.com and do us a favor, hit that Patreon button and give us as little as $5 a month so we can keep the lights on and keep making these great podcasts with people like Mr. Adam Schartoff of FilmWax Radio. While you're at it, dial up some FilmWax Radio. You cannot go wrong.
Thank you. Yeah. Can I just mention it's available?
Please.
It's available on filmwaxradio.com, but you can also find the show on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, or YouTube.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for listening. Please remember to turn your cell phones off as much as you can.
Wait a minute. When you're walking the streets or at the movie theater.
Yeah, when you're walking, driving, riding a bicycle.
Oh, yeah.
Or watching a movie.